intervals of clouds and sun, an afternoon thunderstorm in spots, high of 87. Tuesday, clouds and sun with a thunderstorm, humid, high of 85. With your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
We interrupt our program with a special bulletin.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the speakers and other contributors. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of this station.
Broadcasting live from the Command Center of Freedom, 96.9 in Oklahoma City, it's McRoof Fortifies, Oklahoma. Saving lives, protecting property, fortifying Oklahoma, one roof at a time. I'm Rick Allen Lippert here with a Hague Certified Master Level Damage Inspector, Oklahoma Licensed Public Adjuster, Fortified Evaluator, and IBHS Fortified Roofing Contractor, Scott McCullum.
Hey, good morning, fellas.
Also here, Hague Certified Roofing Inspector, Scotty McCullum.
Hello, Rick.
Retro Radio Randy is running the show today. We're actually going to hear him talk today.
Oh, no.
Just briefly.
Oh.
Well, we're going to lift the
moratorium or whatever.
Yeah, the probation. We're going to take him off probation long enough to find out what he did yesterday. But you can talk to him. He'll talk to you when you call 405-608-4377. We are live streaming today on the McRoof Fortifies YouTube channel, Fortifies Oklahoma YouTube channel. And you can also hear us on freedom969.com. We'll start as usual with our trivia question and other interesting tidbits, including the word of the week. The number again to answer that trivia question, and this is an easy one, I think.
It is?
I think so.
Wow, okay.
At least it doesn't have to do with roofing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Or if you just want to ask a question, 405-608-4377. Later, we'll hear Scotty's view from the rooftop, and we'll have some after the storm tips brought to you by Roof RX, and we'll wrap up with Dad's wisdom. Coming back from breaks, some genuinely historical trivia, and I have a really obscure one today about our American history and what the Continental Congress did on July 5th.
Oh, okay.
I never knew that before. Anyway.
That's very interesting.
So, speaking of, I like to read the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, just, because I am a patriot.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday I was reading, and I like the beginning. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary. Anyway, so I got near the end, and I'd never seen this before. There was a short paragraph that said, S&CM LLC, doing business as McRoof.us, legally operates under Oklahoma registration number 800000002, and that the registration applies to both residential and commercial roofing.
Oh,
I never saw that before.
The theatrics are
I didn't
so...
hear any words like henceforth or where thereafter.
Wheretofore.
That's great.
We think we know who
Great.
that was written by. Rick.
That's great. That's great.
Okay,
Maybe
so
Mr. Lawyer.
yeah, gentlemen,
Reportedly.
let's get into the trivia question, shall
All
we?
right, Rick promised this is not a roofing question today, so consistent with the season.
Isn't this me?
Oh, you're doing this. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Well,
No, you
No,
got
go
it.
on- go on ahead,
I
Johnny.
don't mean to burst your bubble.
The floor is yours.
As we all know, fireworks worldwide are synonymous with celebrations. In America, how much do we spend on fireworks annually, roughly?
Now,
Is
the
it-
nation or individuals?
Well, I didn't write the question, so I think we need
This is
clarification.
the
on it.
cumulative American expenditure on fireworks.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. Is it A, $1 billion? Is it B, $1.5 billion? C, $2 billion? Or D, $2.5 billion?
Or
There's E also, which I didn't see because it's in very fine print, $3 billion.
All right. So how much did Americans spend on fireworks annually? $1 billion, $1.5 billion, $2 billion, $2.5 billion, or $3 billion?
No matter what, it's a bunch of money.
Yeah. You know, I
lot of
forget,
moolah.
Who was the senator decades ago that said, you know, $1 billion here and $1 billion there, and pretty soon you got some real money.
Yeah.
Anyway, 405-608-4377, 405-608-4377. How much do Americans spend on fireworks annually? $1 billion, $1.5, $2 billion, $2.5, or $3 billion? Okay, speaking of fireworks, what's our word of the day? Word of the week.
You know, I usually try to make these things relate. Our word of the week is pyrotechnics. Pyrotechnics.
Does that relate to roofing at all?
Let's hope not.
There are a lot of pyrotechnics landed on a lot of people's roofs last night, and I'm sure somewhere in America there's a house that burned down because of it.
Yep.
Pyrotechnics refers to the art and science of creating fireworks and includes the manufacture and use of various explosive materials. It encompasses not only fireworks, but also safety matches, oxygen candles, and applications in automotive airbags and demolition.
Ooh.
Additionally, the term can describe, and I had never thought of this, a public display of fireworks or a brilliant display of skill, particularly in the performing arts, like Mr. Lippert's oratory. Pyrotechnics.
Pyrotechnics.
Or like those Polynesian guys that wield the fire, the
fire
sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some pyrotechnics.
Okay, 405-608-4377. The trivia question again. How much do Americans spend annually on fireworks? $1 billion, $1.5, $2 billion, $2.5, or $3 billion? If you think you know the answer, 405-608-4377. The winner will get 2 free tickets to the final Carpenter Square Theater production of the season. Opens this coming Friday night. It's called She Kills Monsters. Now, there's no fireworks in the show, but a lot of sword play and monsters or ogres and demons, and it's based on Dungeons and Dragons. It's a heavy Dungeons and Dragons themed show.
Got it.
Okay, so
I have a question for you about theater.
Okay.
I was watching something the other day, and when they always come out for a curtain call.
yes.
And I saw one over the weekend or yesterday or sometime in the last day or two. The director actually came out for a curtain. Why do you not normally see that? Or is that considered normal?
It's quite often done. The director will often come out on opening night,
Okay.
but typically not after that because the director's work is supposed to be invisible, and you're not supposed to even think about who.
Kind of like an umpire.
Kind of, yeah.
There you
Kinda
go.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rick.
And it's kind of like why in a movie credit the edited by is buried deep in the credits, because if you notice the editing, the editor didn't do a very good job.
Gotcha. Okay.
So anyway,
Interesting.
okay.
Very
So we had a lot of weather this week. Oh, but how we spent yesterday. So let's let Retro Radio Randy tell us how he spent his day yesterday, or the day before. Did you do anything?
How'd you celebrate? Randy?
Related?
Actually, yes. My lady and I took some of our family members to the Edmond fireworks display last night, the largest display in the state of Oklahoma, as they stated, and had a grand time. We wound up parking in the parking lot in front of Target, along with about 37 million other people, and enjoyed a wonderful fireworks display. And that was our big celebration last night.
Oh,
awesome!
Good.
Yeah, awesome.
It was a good show.
Very good.
So that's what Retro Radio Randy's voice sounds like. To those of you who've been wondering.
And Mr. Rick, I bet your celebration involves some grandkids.
Actually, they're out of town.
Oh, they are.
They and their parents went out of town. So we were dog sitting.
Okay.
Now, we did go to Red, White, and Boom on Thursday night.
Uh-huh.
That was so incredible. We did leave when the fireworks started because we're old and we've seen a lot of fireworks.
Past your bedtime.
It really was. I mean, they didn't start till 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I understand that.
Is that the one in Yukon?
No, this was downtown at Scissortail Park.
Oh,
And I mean, the place was packed.
That's
It was
awesome.
and
awesome.
Alexander Micklethwaite, the maestro, put together this fantastic show, the same one they did in Yukon last night. Put together this fantastic show of music from he's from Germany. He's been naturalized as a citizen, and he loves America. And so he loves American westerns. So there was music from The Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
That's cool.
The Magnificent Seven and others,
Oh, wow.
and then there was a singer. Her name was Audrey Logan. Oh my goodness, what a voice! She sang a variety of things, including Dolly Parton's "I Will Always Love You,"
Oh, wow.
and put Whitney to shame.
Really?
I mean, it was
Really?
incredible. And the
Really?
Canterbury Choir was there, and the kids came out and sang some stuff, and it was really wonderful.
That's
That sounds
cool.
really nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Wanda and I babysat the dog
Yeah.
as well. You know, Sadie does not like the fireworks.
Yeah.
And so we dosed her up and babysat her last night, and we watched the New York City display on
Okay.
TV and kind of watched out the back door at the Edmond display and things. But it was just a nice, quiet day. The kids, I think, were all busy doing their own thing, and so Wanda and I just spent the day by ourselves. So. Did not go to the office. Went to the office for 5 minutes to send you the radio for today, but other than
appreciate
that,
it.
did not go to the office. So that was a nice day for us.
So, Scotty, what did you do yesterday or the day
Well,
before?
it was an office day yesterday. Our painters were actually finishing up a job that they had struggled to finish the previous days because of all the intermittent rain we've had, and because of that, I had to go to Midwest City and just check on them to make sure things finished up on a good note and that everything looked to my liking, and in fact it did. But because I spent so much time in the field, in between that, did some emails, some phone calls to adjusters, trying to wrap up my week.
Sounds like a very celebratory day, son.
And I was going to go look at fireworks, but I fell asleep on the couch, so I ended up not.
And with that happy
that's
note,
funny.
we'll take our first break. We'll be back on the other side. You're listening to live radio on Freedom 96.9 on Saturday morning. It's McRoof Fortifies, Oklahoma. Our trivia question still out there. How much do Americans spend on fireworks every year? $1 billion, $1.5 billion, $2 billion, $2.5 billion, or $3 billion? And there may be another number in there. Anyway, 405-608-4377.
This is Chris Guanera, CEO of Blue Falcon Aerial. We're proud to partner with McRoof.us to enhance the Roof RX program. McRoof.us already has a trusted, proven system, and we're here to add an extra layer of precision with crystal clear drone imagery using the state-of-the-art Mavic 3 series. With our background in the surveying industry and as drone instructors at Francis Tuttle, we know accuracy. Our documentation supports McRoof's certified professionals so they can make the best recommendations for your roof, saving lives and protecting property, one roof at a time. Roof RX, where technology meets technical competence.
They deal with the insurance company for you, which is so nice and helpful.
One of the most important things that I prioritize is setting the right expectation, what they can expect from their insurance carrier, what ducks need to be lined up to make sure their project reaches the outcome that they desire.
I'm on the phone most of the day, talking with insurance companies, trying to resolve a claim that has not been paid correctly. We don't give up.
They were able to come out and give a full, in-depth inspection. That process ultimately led to a doubling of the claim.
He probably got me, at least on this roof, $50,000 more by my calculation than I would have gotten with the other roofers.
It goes far beyond what a normal roofing company would do. we're going to do it right.
McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma back on the air on Freedom 96.9. On this date in 1643, Scott, you know, Oklahoma suffers a lot of tornado damage. The first tornado recorded in the United States was on this date in 1643 in Massachusetts.
Wow.
A tornado in Massachusetts.
1643. What did they record it on?
A quill pen and papyrus.
A stone tablet?
But this is what I alluded to earlier in the beginning. On this date in 1775, okay, so this was a year before the Declaration of Independence.
Sir, right.
1775, the Continental Congress sent an olive branch petition to King George III.
Extended the olive branch.
Extended the olive branch, and you can see how...
And how'd the old King George react to that?
Okay, so... I think there's a song in Hamilton about that.
Yeah, I think there is.
Okay, so let's talk roofing. This is
oh man, well
we haven't done much.
I was
going to
say there's not a lot of roofing to talk about, and you know we did get a roof built this week, dodged the thunderstorms and things, and got a roof built. But obviously that's what everyone in our industry is doing right now. We're dodging thunderstorms. And I assume that most of the company's backlog is building fairly significantly. We have a decent backlog, probably a backlog that is getting to the point where I'm becoming a little bit uncomfortable with how far out into the fall that's going to take us. Certainly a backlog of repairs that I'm uncomfortable with right now because we just simply cannot do destructive things in the middle of not knowing what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Normally, by this time of year, we're high and dry, or shortly after the 4th of July. It looks like next week we have another week very similar to what we just had. Pretty much anticipated storms, you know, possible every
given day.
Yeah. So we can't really plan,
right?
Because we have to coordinate the logistics. We have to coordinate the crew and the delivery from the distribution and all those kinds of things, and be ready to take care of things. So we have no roofs on the board for next week. Now we have tons of roofs that we possibly will be able to get built. Probably will end up being smaller jobs, maybe jobs
repairs.
Maybe jobs that we can squeeze in between a morning and an evening storm kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it will not be any of the large jobs. It will not be any of the large redeck jobs, and it will not be, certainly will not be any of the fortified jobs.
Right.
And
because those really take more time.
They do. If you look at a roof that you
triple on average.
Yeah. If you look at a roof that you typically would have done in a day or so, that roof's easily going to take 3 to 4 days.
Wow.
If you look at a roof that would have taken half a week, it's going to take better than a week. And if you look at a roof that would have taken a week or more, it's going to take 2 or more weeks. So that's just kind of the way it is.
And let me just, in all defense, it's that time is worth it when you're putting on a fortified roof, because you may never have to put on another roof.
No question about it. And the reason it takes as long as it does is that, again, we had a word last week or a week before that, prescriptive.
Yes.
This is an actual prescription. This is a formula for how we build this fortified roof system. And the most critical element of this for the homeowner, the contractor, is the documentation of the process, okay? It is the only way that that consumer ends up with a designated high wind and hail fortified roof. It is the only way that, for instance, through the grant program, that the contractor is going to get paid that money. All relies on the documentation of how that roof was done. So literally it is done plane by plane on that roof, where you get every step of it done exactly the way it's supposed to be. You can't just put a bunch of people on a roof and have them running willy-nilly all over the roof doing what they want to do without someone standing there with their camera, with their phone, taking the photographs and documenting every step of the process. So that's really what it's all about.
Well, Scotty, I bet you got up on the roof this past week. Hey, hang on, Scotty. Hang on.
I'm trying, Rick.
So your view from the rooftop. Now I can read upside down, so I know that this title is Don't Know, Don't Care.
Don't know, don't care. Well, to give her an alias, Miss Susie told me everything but I don't know and I don't care. And this was in explanation, or this was in response to my explanation, and previously Johnny's, or prior, Johnny's explanation to her about how the insurance deductible works.
Okay.
She had us out for an inspection about a month and a half ago. Kelvin did that inspection because he and I do a little bit more steep roof work than Johnny. But Johnny was there because Kelvin was unavailable to make the adjuster appointment. So Johnny was there to meet the adjuster, make sure that he saw the full scope of damage. And so he did. We were unsure somewhat if this roof was going to get approved, but she's getting into one of those situations where her roof is going to age out of replacement cost coverage, and therefore it was in her best interest to file a claim because there was significant storm damage. We just didn't know if it was going to be enough for the adjuster to attempt getting a roof paid for that really should be paid for, especially to mitigate her potential financial harm or consequences that might be unpleasant with her insurance policy. The adjuster approved the work. She called us last week, I suspect, and Johnny, when they were conversing about the scope of the damage on the claim, she said, "How are you going to take care of my deductible?" And Johnny said, "Wait a second. What exactly do you mean?" And so he gave her the explanation about Oklahoma House Bill 1940 and how back in 2022 that was.
Let me frame this just a little bit.
Okay.
The very first phone call to my office, the very first phone call to McRoof from a lead, a prospect, a consumer, includes the conversation about the deductible. The very first phone call, because Carly questions around, what are you looking for?
Right.
You understand that you will be responsible for paying your deductible. That is the very first phone call that happens. So
there are some times where that question slips through the cracks, and this could have been one of them. I haven't confirmed that yet, but needless to say, Scott is right. About 95% of people get asked the question, are you prepared to pay your deductible if you do have an approved insurance claim? And she said yes, apparently. My explanation to her was very simple. The way you've gotten a roof done in the past, it's been without your knowledge, with or without your knowledge, it has been less than lawful.
Okay.
And I suspect that the contractors who have led you down that path have misled you to believe that it was in fact lawful and right and morally upright to do what you have done.
So you have 30 seconds to finish this up.
Well, here's where the title of today's segment comes in. She said everything but I don't know and I don't care because she was not hearing it. She wanted an estimate to come in lower than the insurance estimate so that she could pocket the remaining difference of the money between what the insurance company's assessment was and the contractor's
So it's someone
assessment.
that entered our universe that never should have. I'll say it right now. If you are a consumer and you do not intend to pay your deductible, please do not call McRoof.
Okay.
And we will be glad to give them all the details about why it's kosher, why it's not kosher.
We're breaking for news. We'll be back on the other side of McRoof Fortifies, Oklahoma on 96.9.
Whether the conflict is in the Middle East or Middle Oklahoma, we have the stories that impact your freedom. We're the new Freedom 96.9 and Freedom969.com, Oklahoma's talk radio. Freedom
Weather. Here's your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast. This afternoon, sunny with some clouds, breezy and humid with a stray thunderstorm, high of 87. Tonight, mainly clear and humid with a low of 72. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy and humid with a thunderstorm in a couple of spots, reaching a high of 86. Monday, humid with intervals of clouds and sun, an afternoon thunderstorm in spots, high of 87. Tuesday, clouds and sun with a thunderstorm, humid, high of 85. With your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
We interrupt our program with a special bulletin.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the speakers and other contributors. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of this station.
McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma back on the air for the second half of today's live show on Freedom 96.9. On this date in 1813, the War of 1812 began, began with Britain raiding 3 forts in New York. On this date, 1813, the War of 1812 began. You think
that sounds a little funny?
Yeah, you think when we beat them, 50 years earlier, 40 years earlier, they would have learned the lesson, but they didn't. Anyway, on this date in 1865. The U.S. Secret Service began operating under the Treasury Department.
Yeah.
1865.
I knew that.
Good for you. All right. And let me get the trivia question out there one more time. How much do Americans spend on fireworks annually? Is it $1 billion, $1.5 billion, $2 billion, $2.5 billion, or $3 billion? If you think you know the answer, 405-608-4377.
Whole lot of noise.
Okay, Scott, you wanted to finish talking about the issue of deductible. And Scotty, go ahead.
Go ahead, Scotty.
Could I finish just one?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because I'm not good against a deadline. When you whisper 30 seconds to me, I always have more to say. So here's what's kosher. We can help you legally and legitimately offset your out-of-pocket expense, not specifically your deductible, when you have scope of work on your claim that you elect not to do, whether that's gutters that have cosmetic dings in them and you're not bothered by those, and you say, well, it's more worth it to me to put that towards a roof upgrade, or potentially what my starting out-of-pocket would be, which starts with your deductible as one starting point.
Okay.
And so that is the only legal and legitimate way, and you might have lots of money worth of items that you aren't interested in doing, but every house is different.
Garage
Everybody's
doors,
priorities,
fences, condensing
everybody's
units.
priorities are different, and so a lot of people want to fix everything and pay their deductible, and they know that that's their obligation to their carrier as part of their policy. But again, the only legal way is to do what I just said.
And to kind of button that up a little bit, Scotty, when folks decide that I don't want to do those gutters or I don't want to do that garage door, I want to use that money as a credit against that deductible. It's not that you're not paying your deductible, you're taking offsets to it. You're still paying your deductible. The value that is used is not the replacement cost value. The value that you can take legitimately as a credit is the actual cash value or depreciated value. You're not entitled to replacement cost value on work that you do not do.
Exactly.
You're entitled to actual cash value on those items. And it comes with the admonition from McRoof that we want you to understand that the insurance company is never going to pay you again for these same items unless or until you can prove to them with a canceled check or a paid receipt that you actually did that work. So once you let this go, it's gone. Okay, it's yours. You own those garage doors. You own those gutters. You own that fence, the window screens, or whatever else you decided not to do. And the credit that you take is less than the replacement cost value. So what I say to everyone is To the degree that you are able to do this, do 100% of the work that the insurance company is paying you to do and restore your property to its full economic value, okay? That's what your insurance is really for. But the only legal way that we can help you to reduce your out-of-pocket, which, as Scotty said, the first number on that out-of-pocket scenario we draw for you is your deductible. Number never changes. You can deduct numbers from that, but it is the actual cash value of scope of work that you do not perform, and you own it. Insurance company will never pay you for it again.
And in Susie's anecdotal example from recently, shopping around for a fair price, as she quoted to me, is not relevant when you have an insurance claim, because the insurance adjuster's published replacement cost value is what they're going to pay. In some cases, our estimate is significantly higher than the insurance company's initial estimate. That's where there's value if you trust our expertise to negotiate with the insurance company and to submit supplemental documentation substantiating some changes and adjustments to the claim scope or pricing be made in order so that the homeowner, you potentially, optimize the value, maximize the value in your project.
You know, we get calls occasionally. We don't get many anymore. We used to get a lot of calls saying, oh, my agent told me to get 3 estimates, or, right, oh, I need to get 3 estimates, or, oh, I need an estimate on a roof. And we have this conversation with people. In the context of an insurance claim, an estimate is absolutely worthless to you because you're going to have a claim summary, which is a scope of work initially established by the insurance carrier. Once you have that claim summary, you need someone that has the capability, the expertise to go through it and see everything that is wrong with it, everything that is mispriced, everything that is mismeasured, everything that is missing in total and ignored. Someone who has the capability of correctly writing the supplement, notating all of the code items, and sending in a supplement on your behalf to the insurance company to get the quote-unquote pot right. Once we get the pot right, then all you're looking at, again, is your deductible. Now you can go through with the pot right, and you can go through all the line items once again, and you can decide, are we doing all the work, which is 95% of the time, I'd say we're doing all the work. If we're not doing all the work, then we're going to show it to you in black and white, in writing. Here's your deductible, $5,000. Here's your garage door that you don't want to do, actual cash value, $1,000. Here's your fence that you don't want to do, actual cash value, $1,000. Net, your out-of-pocket is $3,000. Your out-of-pocket is never going to change unless you add additional scope of work or decide to eliminate some other items, okay? That's how we do it.
And in the case of shopping for estimates, shopping contractors for a fair estimate, somebody is never going to save their deductible.
No.
And I know that this is what Miss Susie is after, and I tried my hardest to explain this to her, that it is not going to end up the way she thinks it is, and I'm trying to save her the aggravation of that, but that's where that's where we got off of the conversation.
I didn't mean to get into estimates today, but now we're here, so we're going to go. Estimates are meaningless to consumers who do not have the expertise to know what the estimates mean. Unless you have a scope of work, a specification, and ask 3 contractors to bid exactly that, the estimates are absolutely worthless to you. The other point is that if you have a claim summary for $25,000 and you have a $5,000 deductible, so your net is going to be $20,000, and you're looking to get an estimate that's $20,000 or less, and you get one, and you send it to the insurance company. guess what? You didn't just save yourself $5,000. You saved the insurance company $5,000 because they're going to take the lowest bid and they're still going to deduct your deductible from it. That's how it works.
You
so
have to pay your deductible.
estimates in insurance replacement are absolutely worthless.
Well, they're not absolutely worthless because our
He loves to argue with me, doesn't he?
Our supplemental that you just mentioned includes an estimate to the insurance adjuster. And
Well,
our
I think a
estimate,
supplement is different from an estimate, but
well, an estimate is part of the supplemental package of information that we provide to substantiate the changes that we're requesting on a claim.
and along those lines, I
But
will
he's
say
saying
this.
an estimate to a homeowner or a business owner for a scope of work prior to or after the insurance company establishes their fair market value, their replacement cost, is worthless in several ways to that consumer, unless they really know what they're doing. And he said have the expertise to negotiate with their adjuster, which most don't.
I will say this. Our claims typically, from when someone provides us with a claim summary, if we weren't involved, they've already had their adjuster out, for instance. It doesn't happen a lot. Most people have us out and we're involved from the get-go. But every now and then we get somebody. I met a guy this week who had already had his adjuster out, and his adjuster's been out, and they've told him all kinds of things about his claim that are absolutely wrong. He has $83,000 worth of ordinance or law coverage, yet they're telling him they're not going to pay for his decking. He has a roof that is a 50-year, should be rated as a 50-year or an excellent asphalt shingle roof, and they've depreciated based on 30 years. Well, 50 divided by 30, you could see how much more depreciation they've taken from him than what he should have been charged. And he has an ACV policy. So that hit that he took by them calling it a 30-year roof instead of a 50 on his roof is about $7,000 or $8,000. $7,000 or $8,000, too much depreciation that the insurance company has held. Now, do you think that every Joe Blow roofing company knows what I just said?
Probably not.
So there is value to dealing with people who have deep technical competency from an inspection, from an insurance restoration standpoint, who know how to deal with insurance companies. But if you're not going to pay your deductible and you want an estimate, you're not going to get to deal with that kind of company.
And with that, we'll put the gloves on over the break, so when they come back from their corners, it'll be a safer fight. You're listening to McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma on Freedom 96.9. Our trivia question still out there. How much do Americans spend on fireworks annually? $1 billion, $1.5, $2 billion, $2.5, or $3 billion? 405-608-4377.
They deal with the insurance company for you, which is so nice and helpful.
One of the most important things that I prioritize is setting the right expectation, what they can expect from their insurance carrier, what ducks need to be lined up to make sure their project reaches the outcome that they desire.
I'm on the phone most of the day, talking with insurance companies, trying to resolve a claim that has not been paid correctly. We don't give up.
They were able to come out and give a full, in-depth inspection. That process ultimately led to a doubling of the claim.
He probably got me, at least on this roof, $50,000 more by my calculation than I would have gotten with the other roofers.
It goes far beyond what a normal roofing company would do. We're going to do it right.
McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma back on the air for our final segment this morning. On this date, in 1935, Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the U.S. National Labor Relations Act, creating the NRLB, and it went into effect the very next day. On this date in 1951, the invention of the junction transistor was made at Bell Labs, invented by three men who later on all received Nobel prize in physics.
Wow.
Five years later. The
Wow.
transistor, 1951.
Hey, so great lead in with the spot that played during the break.
Yeah.
Our good friend Mr. Jim made a comment that
I was going to bring that up.
He probably got me $50,000 more than I would have gotten with the other roofers.
Yeah.
I'm not really. I would like to talk to Mr. Jim about how he said that, but I'm going to give you some context. The reality is that I didn't get Mr. Jim an extra $50,000 by beating on an insurance company, by asking an insurance company to pay things that they shouldn't pay, by exaggerating the storm damage, scope of loss, or pricing in any way, shape, form, or fashion what was required to replace the man's roof.
And you also didn't get Jim $50,000 in his pocket. You put $50,000 more value into his home than the other contractors would ever have known was required.
You are absolutely correct.
The gloves are working.
You are absolutely correct. And in this case, Mr. Jim paid his $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 deductible, whatever it was.
It's a huge roof, a large house.
He wrote that check to McRoof, all right? And what it was that the scope of work is very complex, big roof. Adjusters have a hard time understanding how you take that roof apart and put it back together. So we literally draw them the picture. We put it We put it on paper in Xactimate. We line item it out, item by item, detail by detail. We provide hundreds of photographs of the detail and everything that is required. We provide invoices on things like copper flashings that we had to have made and specialty products and different things. This was a high-end specialty shingle, so we had to provide some pricing information for them because Xactimate and insurance companies tend to go into a database and they'll pull local market pricing out that is nowhere near what we're actually paying for that product. So we have to correct those. So yes, Mr. Jim's claim went up more than $50,000 based on our ability and expertise in insurance restoration and how to deal with the insurance company. That $50,000 went into the reconstruction of his roof. It didn't go into his pocket. Thank you, Scott.
And it was a gorgeous roof.
And I know someone recently who I spoke with would have preferred the second option, is that money end up in her pocket, which is just not
where it's supposed to go. Well, it's storm season still out there. Intermittent chance of hearing that again this afternoon. Gentlemen, what's our storm tip?
Well, storm tip remains the same. Right now, we keep saying we're going to get beyond this, and it's going to be time to get out there and do your baseline, your post-storm season baseline. We've got a lot of movement in Roof RX with the way that we're utilizing our drone capabilities, and we're starting to get in a lot more into thermal scans, particularly in commercial roofs, flat roofs, low-slope roofs, things like that. Let's get out there and do an inspection once the storms have stopped and once we get into that high and dry, which we know it's going to come sooner or later. Once we get into that, let's get that post-storm season baseline on your roof. If your roof has not been inspected in some time, it's absolutely something that needs to be done. If your roof was inspected before storm season, it's time to inspect it again to see what Mother Nature has brought this year. If you have any leaks that have happened any time during the torrential rains, the weeks and weeks and weeks of rains that have not been addressed to the point that you know that they are addressed and that you no longer are dealing with that, You can't just ignore that, folks. It has to be something that you know that there was physical. I heard someone ask Scotty in a conversation, "Hey, have you done anything on that repair? Because if you did, it's still leaking," kind of thing. Well, that's what we want. That's what we're talking about. If nothing has been done, it didn't just go away.
Right.
Whatever the condition was that caused that initially is still there. We need to diagnose it, get it taken care of, and know that you're good to go from that point on. That's where we're at in storm season. Storm season is really over. Now we're dealing with kind of these lagging thunderstorms and things. We're not, I don't believe, going to have the severe hail. We're not going to have the severe winds, and probably not going to get into the tornadoes, although it can happen at any point in time.
Yeah.
Probably not going to get back into that until we have that kind of fall season that we have. So Roof RX, inspect, repair, and maintain. That's where we're at.
I have one tip.
Okay.
Do your research and trust your contractor.
Okay.
There was
Go
give
ahead.
a very quick story.
Oh, go ahead. We have time.
There's a guy.
We have 6 minutes.
There's a guy that was scheduled for an inspection, and he's a long-time inspection and repair customer. I advised him to file a claim last year, early in the year last year, when I determined that he had enough damage from the previous year's hailstorms. In fact, he called last week, set up an inspection for this week. I looked at the weather forensics before I went out the day before, and then I called Carly and said, "Hey, why am I going out for an inspection?" I
Told him to file a claim last year.
I told him to file a claim last year, and I don't think I'm going to see anything different because I'm familiar with his part of town, and I know that there haven't been any significant hail storms or other activity in the past year. And as it turns out, he has just narrowly, by about a month and a half, missed his opportunity, time-wise, to file a claim for the damage that occurred back in 2023.
Oh, my.
And he's got a totaled roof. His neighbors are getting new roofs now, but he's simply missed out on that opportunity. So he's got a damaged roof. Opens him up to some risks. As far as I know, he doesn't have any leaks, which is a very thankful thing. But when we tell you that when we give you advice, it's based on what we would do if it were our property, and what we would do if it were our property is based on our expertise in this business. If you don't trust us, don't call us.
Well, and
that ought to be on your
Scotty.
on your trucks.
that is a good point. Is when we tell you something, you have to understand that we're not telling you something to sell you something. We're telling you something because you need to know what it is that we're telling you. And when we advise you to file an insurance claim, you really need to take that seriously, take that under consideration, and hopefully act on it when we tell you to do it for exactly this reason. Insurance companies are becoming more and more pushy about dates of loss, okay? And they're pushing back where folks did not notify them on a timely basis. And we talk about an insured's duty to an insurance company, and we talk about you have the duty to protect from further loss. You have the duty to timely notify. You have the duty to work in good faith with the insurance company through the investigation of the claim. You have the duty to pay your deductible and to restore the property. That's where you're at, okay? So as an insured, if we tell you to file a claim, we're telling you to file a claim because we understand what your insurance policy says, and we understand what the conditions on your roof tell us need to be done.
And we understand the consequences to you if you don't follow our advice.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this after the storm tip brought to you by Roof RX, I want to mention the phone number for Roof RX if you want an inspection, 405-877-7663, 405-877-7663. Roof RX, inspect, repair, and maintain. And while I have the microphone, I need to also remind you that S&CM LLC, doing business as McRoof.us, legally operates under Oklahoma registration number 8000002, and that the registration applies to both residential and commercial roofing.
So I'm going to throw the answer to the trivia question out there.
By all means.
All right. $2.5 billion. That is a whole lot of moolah, isn't it? Can you even imagine?
And you mentioned the drone technology that RoofRx is using. I didn't see it, but in my neighborhood, they had a big fireworks display Thursday night as well. And the photos I saw from a neighbor who posted, they used drones.
Spectacular.
Oh, my goodness.
We've got
fireworks as well, but the drone stuff was.
One of my guys down in Florida who helps us a lot with the solar and the thermal stuff is a big drone guy. And he actually built and shot off a fireworks display last year and drone photoed. It is spectacular.
Oh, my goodness.
I'll send it to you.
Please
I'll send it to you. So anyway, it's really cool. Hey, I did want to end on a little more positive note.
We have about a minute and a half.
Yep, I got you. I think we're seeing some movement in a lot of ways with the insurance companies. Maybe in what I think is a little more positive direction for consumers. We're seeing some attitude maybe changes experienced with some adjusters. We certainly are seeing some reversals of position on behalf of the insurance companies on anything from ordinance or law coverage. That seems to, I think that's going to be taken care of. We're going to start seeing a lot more favorable outcomes and a whole lot less wrestling and boxing in that regard. But we have a couple of cases in the last week or two where we had claims that have been just denied, that all of a sudden are now being paid. So I think that we're prevailing through the expertise. Again, it's not a fist fight, but it literally is really the expertise and wearing them out with the preponderance of evidence, finally getting to the point where they go, okay, we're just going to have to go ahead and pay for this. So you need somebody that knows what they're doing. You need somebody who's not going to cross the lines, okay, because that's going to be very, very detrimental for you as a consumer. If you have a contractor who will cross the lines, be asking insurance companies for the world and putting all kinds of things into the claim that don't belong there, that is going to hurt you as a consumer at the end of the day.
Okay. And as we wrap up, we want to close the show with some Dad's wisdom, but this time it's not from Dad.
Well, I saw a billboard the other day, had Dolly on it, and it made me think of this. My dad had one similar to this. If you see someone without a smile today, just give them yours.
All right, you've been listening to a live edition on Saturday morning of McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma on Freedom 96.9. My thanks to Scotty McCullum, Retro Radio Randy. I'm Rick Allen Lippert. We will be back next week with more of McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma.
Have a great week, everybody. Stay dry.